I'm very scared, Amy. I think we're live.
All
we
right.
are live. Welcome to Truth in the Barrel Live. We're so excited to have you all here because it's going to be crazy. If you know anybody out there, you better go get them now. You better call them. You better text them and say that the best show ever is on at this second. You don't want to miss it because after we talk about the craziness of this last week, you can cask us anything. So we want to make sure that you do that, right? Now we're going to now really our theme is going to be pretty incredible, Amy. It's promises made, promises kept from the public.
Mm-hmm.
What do we mean by that? Well, we have a montage to help us explain.
Roll it.
Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, and so a lot of people want to know if she's going to turn in powerful people. And I know you've talked in the past about Prince Andrew, and you've criticized Bill Clinton's behavior. I'm wondering, do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well, whatever it is. I don't know the situation with Prince Andrew. Just don't know. Not aware of it.
Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go.
Who has Jeffrey Epstein's
Black Book?
Black Book?
FBI.
But who? That is that. I mean, there's.
Well, that's under direct control of the director of the FBI.
What the hell are the House Republicans doing? They have the majority. You can't get the list? Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know it. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world.
If you're lying about that, you're lying about everything.
This is something Donald Trump has talked about. The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. Everything's going to come out to the public. The public has a right to know. Americans have a right to know.
Mr. President, your daughter-in-law said that there should be transparency in the Epstein case. Do you agree with her, sir?
The Attorney General's handled that very well. She's really done a very good job. And I think that when you look at it, you'll understand that. I would like to see that also. But I think the Attorney General, the credibility is very important.
What did she tell you about the review? And specifically, did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the
No, she's given us just a very quick briefing, and in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen. And I would say that, these files were made up by Comey, they were made up by Obama.
Bitch, please.
Where do you start? Everything's made up by Obama.
Well, it goes much deeper than that, as you know. And, I can't wait to get into the layers of awesomeness and awfulness that is all combined in this one big thing with the Epstein files, and the Epstein list. And the fact that Kash Patel's in there multiple times, I can't wait to get into this. But Amy, before we get into Epstein, something happened over the last couple of weeks people need to know about. You were on vacation on Hawaii.
Oh, it was wonderful. Look, I've been in the military for 24 years and I had never been to Hawaii, which is pretty amazing. I've been to like all the stands, right? And I've been to the Middle East and all around the world and many amazing places. But my husband, before we met, he was stationed in Hawaii. So he's always wanted to take me and take the kids back there. He knows everything about the islands, and we did it. We did like sort of the bucket list vacation over to Hawaii, and my husband tried to pack in to 2 weeks, pretty much, his entire 3-year tour there, along with a wife and 3 kids. So it was busy, but I brought back some whiskey for you.
I can't wait to hear about that. And I heard though, when he was stationed there, that he was a quite strapping lad.
Well, I didn't know him back then, but yeah, I mean, he was in his 20s and first tour helicopter pilot, and he does know a lot about the islands. And we went to Kauai, we went to Oahu, and we went to Maui. And it was awesome. We brought back this Kapahi bourbon whiskey, which is actually, and you will appreciate this, Denver. You can't distill whiskey in Kauai or in Hawaii. There's too many regulations, so they're still dealing with the regulations. But you can grow the corn. So this is, Hawaiian corn grown on Kauai. And then it's distilled in Spokane, Washington. But it's very good. It's like a vanilla, caramely chocolate.
Does it say how old it is?
It's not very old. The distillery that they started making it in, I think, 2014. But yeah.
Yeah, well, I forgot my tumbler. That looks fantastic. So to drink with you, I just have to let you know that we're talking about Epstein. So I have a little bit of a bigger glass of bourbon today.
Oh, I see that. We need it. But
That's
hey,
very good.
do you know what else is really cool about Hawaii? And it is paradise. There's no snakes there. Isn't that cool? Like, I didn't know
really
that.
Cool.
I always wanted to live in a place with no snakes.
Now watch me ask questions like to be such an idiot. As you know, remember we did the military briefings when somebody would ask like the question, you're like, give me a break. Has there ever been snakes in Hawaii? Like, was there like never been snakes in Hawaii?
Right. Yeah. I mean, a lot of it's a volcanic place, right? I mean, it was volcanoes that, make Hawaii many thousands and millions of years ago. And things were brought in. So a lot of the agriculture has sort of been brought in, but snakes have never been brought in, and they have very strict code for obvious reasons. And there's a lot of islands like that. Like, I think when I was stationed in Guam, or when I went out to Guam, they had no snakes there until they were like brought in somehow.
Yeah, and
I don't know. I
think
have to go back and look at that.
Snuck in a snake during the Great Snake Rebellion of 1937 or something, or something where they have snakes, like rabbits being introduced to places where there are never rabbits and they take over,
Yeah.
It sounds like you had a great time. I wish I was in Hawaii with you. You missed a very boring 2 weeks.
So
here.
you got to catch me up, because this Epstein thing, first of all, I thought it was kind of like over. I mean, I know very little. I probably know about as much as the average American, like not looking at this and following what Kash Patel says every day. But, I know that Jeffrey Epstein was a longtime friend of Donald Trump's in the 1980s and 90s. I know they partied together and they loved to hang out with lots of different women. And I know that Jeffrey Epstein liked a lot of very young women, girls actually, and was convicted of sexually abusing, molesting girls.
Trafficking.
Right? Yeah. In some really sick stuff. And the FBI has, hundreds of victims that they have identified that this man, really did some really sick stuff back in the day too. And so he went to jail and did some plea deals over the years, but eventually was convicted. Trump distanced himself from Epstein, but Epstein was convicted, and he died in prison during the first Trump administration.
Yes, under Trump's watch, by the way. I was going to get into that, Amy, by the way.
It's apparent suicide, but that's about all I know. So what is the conspiracy around this?
So we have to go back to one of my all-time faves. There's this sticky bomb of a conspiracy theory called QAnon. And as you know, Amy, QAnon attacked me after I officiated a same-sex wedding that I was part of. And this is why this is so fascinating to me. When you talk about, I think, I'm going to need a glass this big by the time this is over. This is so fascinating because people, personally, I was attacked as being pretty much part and parcel of the Epstein list evolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was part of the Soros-backed globalists and deep staters. I was a tool of the Antichrist. This is what I was called after the wedding. But also, I was part of the whole cabal of child sex traffickers worldwide that goes back to the deep state and the globalist, which is really anti-Semitic. It's, the globalists of the New World Order, or the ZOG, the Zionist occupied government. All that is part of this big New World Order globalist. And what they like to do is they like to harvest children. So since Epstein, right, they like to harvest children for blood. And I don't know if you know this, Amy. So I know this is hard to believe, but they like to harvest children for blood because they would make adrenochrome. Adrenochrome is something that they would actually inject from the adrenaline of children that they would harvest from the blood right before they were killed or molested. They would have a spike in adrenaline, and that's when they would suck the blood from them and make this concoction to pump into their veins in order to have this like fountain, of youth, right? Keeps them young.
Okay.
By the way, if people want to know where the term adrenochrome really got famous, Hunter S. Thompson, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, said that he would pump adrenochrome into his veins. Also, Fear and Loathing in the 1972 election, where he also talks about using adrenochrome. That's where adrenochrome really got its baseline, was Hunter S. Thompson, which is gonzo journalism, which is a joke. So maybe he was definitely pumping something to his veins, right, Amy? So, but anyhow.
So
what you have
these
now,
people think that these folks who are trying to pump the blood of young kids into them are trying to rule the world.
Correct. That is correct. That is the QAnon conspiracy theory in a nutshell. If you remember the hashtag Save Our Children, the storm, where we go one, we go all, because one of the reasons that and this is a well-known fact, one of the reasons that the Capitol was stormed on January 6th is they thought children were being held in the catacombs beneath Congress for harvesting, because that's what congressional representatives do. Obviously, we harvest children, right? So, so that's part of the conspiracy theory and why the storm was so, such a big sort of overarching thing about what's happening on January 6th also, because the stolen election was sort of a cascading effect of the whole QAnon nuttiness, with Congress being part of this based on the children being held in the basement.
So they think that Epstein was a part of this.
Epstein was really the ringleader. He was one of the main traffickers to help with this sort of blood sampling or blood extraction from children. People on the Epstein list were part of this, right? So you're talking about all the Hollywood elites. You're talking about Biden. You're talking about Clinton. You're talking about everybody, Tom Hanks, Oprah Winfrey, you name it, right? And part of the Epstein, the big thing, and I know people are probably like, Denver, man, you're amazing with this. But part of this too was, right, they hung children from hooks, right? On Epstein Island. Epstein Island is where they sequestered all these children, right? And where they had their sex parties and where they trafficked children, right? So you had pedophiles and pederasts and everybody, around there doing crazy stuff. So just evil, awful things. But all those evil, awful things, Amy, were being done by globalists in the deep state, which are hooked to what? Democrats. The reason that this is such a huge deal is because Republicans, GOP and MAGA, have been pushing conspiracy theories around Epstein, like he didn't commit suicide in jail. Yes, he did. Of course he did, right? You have Ghislaine Maxwell, who's already in jail, right? The woman who helped him do all of this. You have all this, but there was always this black book, this Epstein client list.
Client list. Okay, so
the
tell us
client
about that.
list. So now you have the client list. Everybody that was actually part of this massive harvesting, child trafficking way of doing business, working directly with Epstein. And most of these people, who almost all of them, were obviously far left-leaning globalists in the New World Order who wanted to take over the world. This is what probably about 70 million Americans believe.
And these guys promised that once they took over the government, they would release this client blacklist. Supposedly,
You are
right?
So part of the reason
they
that
told their following.
Listen, Trump's whole thing in his first term and this term is that he's going to destroy the deep state. I mean, we can call him Deep State Donnie now. I mean, this is a guy who will not release the Epstein list because, what's going to happen right now is every single MAGA believer, every single person who voted for Trump, the first thing they thought of when the GOP, the first word that came in their head when the GOP voted in rules against releasing this, right? Rules and the amendment from Ro Khanna, right? So they voted against it 7-5 in rules. Then Ro Khanna brings up an amendment and it loses 211 to 210 on party lines not to release the Epstein list. Do you know what the first word that popped in everybody's head was? Pedo.
Oh,
That
right.
I'm right. So pedo is now the word of the day in the United States. I'd probably going to be on Jeopardy. So now you have pedo out there. Now everybody, there's this big wave. Now the Republicans who created the conspiracy theory, who created this nonsense, the conspiracy theorists now in charge, Kash Patel at the FBI, after that brilliant montage, you see Kash Patel talking about the little black books, who has it, Glenn Beck, right, who's nuttier than a shithouse rat, right?
So now they don't want to release it.
No, well, or it never existed. So you have this issue. You have this issue right now. There's no way out. They
Right.
have to say, okay, so here's a conspiracy theory that's now happening. Biden destroyed the list. Well, if Biden destroyed the list, how did Pam Bondi said she had it on her desk? Now you're right. So now you get, oh, Obama destroyed the list. Oh, is that right? So you're telling the one guy who actually went after Epstein, Biden, right? Who really went after them during his watch. You're telling me that he didn't know? How did he go after him then? There's no
But
way
Epstein
out.
died during the first Trump administration. So how
That's
is
right.
Biden even involved in any of this?
Well, that's exactly right. Well, of course he is, because Biden's part of the New World Order. Haven't you been following anything I'm saying, Amy? My head's exploding here, right? Come on now.
Well, the Justice Department has said there's nothing in the memos. There's no client list or blackmail materials. So
Liars.
what's the point of releasing it? I mean,
Here's the thing. And let me try to, when crazy eats its own tail. Here's when nuttiness and conspiracy theories go completely off the rails, because they have to stay completely inconsistent for this to work.
Yeah.
So what they're going to say, right, is that Biden destroyed it, or he changed the Epstein list and actually changed the names. You'll have here's what's going to happen. It's going to be a conspiracy that says, you know what? You know what happened? The Epstein list was actually printed on human skin. It was a human skin document. And that's why the dog from Hunter Biden, Joe, that's why he attacked Secret Service agents, because they would feed little parts of the Epstein list to the dog. And the dog got a taste for human flesh. And that dog would attack the Secret Service agents. So what happens is, the reason he attacked the Secret Service agents is because human skin was used for the Epstein list, and they fed it to the dog. These are the kind of conspiracy theories you're going to have out there.
Yeah, they're nuts.
Oh, it's going to be nuttier than that, because they're going to talk about secret coding or invisible ink, or that the list was actually absconded with, or that Trump actually has the real names of the list. And there's a secret force right now going out and taking out all these people. And they can't tell anybody, because it's a top secret black ops list that's going out and killing these people, and nobody knows. And that's why Trump's not releasing the list.
Okay. Now, let's get into the two things. Okay.
Yes.
One,
come on, Amy.
All the conspiracy stuff aside and all the craziness. Okay. They're crazy. But my question to you is, one, why wouldn't the Trump administration just release the damn thing? Okay. And then two is what the Dems are doing right now, which a lot of people are saying, oh, this is great. This is going to be Trump's Benghazi or whatever. Is that the right thing to do? Dems focusing on this, my belief, kind of stupid conspiracy theory bullshit, as opposed to continuing to talk about the things like, I don't know, the tariffs are super high, inflation is back, the prices are super high, incompetence of this administration, the fact that, Ukraine is still being pounded by Putin. I mean, there's a number of other things that we should be focused on right now, and not Epstein. So I'll go to the first question first.
I would humbly submit, when it comes to the Epstein list, this is the number one issue for the next 3 years.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you why. Did any of that stuff help get Trump not elected in 2024? No, didn't matter. Didn't matter, because he was going to destroy the deep state and the globalists. He was here for Christians. He was here to help the Christians. He is here to recreate America as it was in the glory days of 1870. That's why he won. Christian nationalism, destroying the deep state, destroying the globalists, stopping the wars. How'd that work out for him, Amy?
Yeah.
But the other thing was stopping the pedophiles that are the Democrats, stopping these sexual abusers, right? This whole QAnon baseline that really started back during the Tea Party and goes all the way back to the protocols of the elders of Zion about blood libel, and that the Jews are eating your kids. This is one big evolutionary social media explosion where all this became this cluster bomb of crazy. Like I called it the sticky bomb of conspiracy theories, QAnon. The reason this has worked so well is now you can just ask questions, because if they're conspiratorial and they said all this, now they have to answer for the very conspiracy theories that they actually put forth. And I know how to do that. You do too. Because the first question you're going to ask is like, was there ever an Epstein list? How do they answer that question? How do you answer it? There's a few things. The first question, where is it, right? What's happening?
Yeah.
Why won't they release it? Number one, it doesn't exist. An Epstein client list doesn't exist. Now, it has been said there's redacted names. Actually, Alan Dershowitz, an idiot, he did say that there's actually a list of redacted names, but politicians who aren't serving now. He made sure to say that. That means there's politicians that have served on this list. Probably one of them, but I think probably Donald Trump is on there. That's probably the second reason, right? Trump is on the list himself. Number three, people that Trump know is on the list.
Yeah.
Number four, other GOP politicians are on the list. Or number five, some of his biggest donors are on the list. That's why it's not being released.
Yeah.
And the reason that they're saying right now that Joe Biden, right, that the list was destroyed by Joe Biden, or that they said that Comey and Obama made the list, James Comey and Obama or Biden made this list, is they're trying to build a conspiratorial plausible deniability that the reason that these names are on the list is because Biden, Obama, and Comey put them on the list. And the real list is gone. That is going to be the conspiracy theory that we have to deal with.
That's the next one.
That's the next one. But Democrats can attack this and say, well, then you should release the list anyway, and then tell us which names the Democrats added to it. We'd love to know.
Yeah.
They have no way out if the Democrats have the guts to do this.
So Democrats keep pushing this. It keeps exposing the conspiratorial lies that got us to where we're at right now. As long as they keep pushing it.
Yeah, if they keep pushing it, because
there's
then
no
it
way
starts
out
to,
for Republicans.
there's no way out. You can't get them out. Nope. Don't give them any quarter. If I'm on Bill Maher and somebody asks me a question about taxes, I'm like, well, first I'm going to talk about the Epstein list. There should never be a time where a Democrat answers the question that a media person is asking. They should immediately go, well, first, before I do anything in policy, I want to know where the Epstein list is. I want to know where it's at. Where are the files? Release them all. What are you scared of? You know what? The only thing I can think of is the GOP is on that list, and they're the ones who killed. They're the ones who killed Epstein.
Honestly, it's the perfect example of like politics Trump, and I'm saying Trump in a way of actual the word Trump. Politics Trump policy these days. I mean, they've kind of always done that in American history, but like it's so extreme right now that we're like the biggest thing we're talking about, or politicians at the highest levels are talking about, is this conspiracy theory bullshit. But it could work from a political perspective instead of the things that like really matter to Americans.
Well, if he's lying about the Epstein list, right? What else is he lying about? And by the way, I just want everybody to know I'm deadpanning a lot of this. I hope everybody's taking this. When me and Amy are talking about conspiracy theories, we don't believe any of this.
We don't.
I want people
I'm always talking to Denver like, why does this even matter? These people are nuts. And he's
They're
always
nuts.
like, well, let me tell you why it matters. You know? but I know you don't believe this shit.
Of course not. I mean, you can't believe this shit because that means you're insane. That means you're off kilter. So when I'm doing all this deadpan, what I'm giving to the audience is this is exactly the arguments you're going to face when you walk in as a facts-based person. When delusions overcome data, that's the issue that you have. When fantasy overcomes fact, that's a lot of alarming alliteration, by the way. So, I mean, so that's where we're at right now. So a lot of this is jokes.
Yeah.
To me and to you and to the listeners. But it's not jokes to the people you're arguing with, because they believe that God has ordained Trump to be president, and they believe he is here to stomp out evil. And if the person that they believe was going to stomp out evil is hiding the very essence of their belief system, the Epstein files from everybody, if they're the ones hiding that insanity to the people who believe this, they can't get through it. They can't get over it. There's no way out. And Democrats have to be able to use facts and anti-delusion questions to go right at them every time, never let up for the next 3 years.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. We're in a different world where we're not even talking about policy most of the time. We're still talking about bullshit because we're the people that are in charge of our government right now, the Pam Gandhis, the Kash Patels, the Bonjingo, whatever the guy's name is. These people are nuts. And we
sound like a Quentin
fight.
Tarantino movie.
I'm sorry. We got to get to Cask Us Anything though, because this is a live show.
Oh, it is. Well, we got, you know what? And you were just talking about real policy, right? And we're talking about conspiracy theories.
Tariffs,
Texas
Ukraine,
floods.
There's a lot going.
Tariffs.
Texas floods.
Texas
I have a lot
floods.
of questions about the Texas flood. I mean, I don't know what people have their questions coming forward tonight, but I
almost have to put quotes on each side of this for the viewers, and I apologize for this. Texas floods. Well, cloud seeding and HARP caused the floods. It was geoengineering and weather manipulation, right? So instead of talking about the policy of how the best to handle floods, make sure FEMA is well funded, make sure that we have on the ground resources, and to make sure that we have good weather prognostication, that NOAA is funded, right? You want to make sure of all that. Instead, we're talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, wants to put, to get rid of cloud seeding and geoengineering. And Lee Zeldin, the EPA administrator, came out and agreed with Marjorie Taylor Greene that the truth's going to come out about weather manipulation. So instead of talking about facts or talking about policy to help people, we're talking about fantasy and delusion. And that's the whole Epstein thing. And I think Democrats need to start to study and embrace the nuttery that's going on the far right and how to attack it. But the one thing that the far right's going to hate, if you lie to them about pedophiles, they're coming after you, and they should. And I think that's what you have right now.
Okay. All right. I believe you.
It's so funny because Doug, the producer goes, Denver, you might want to clarify when you're kidding a little more with the viewers. Because I don't, I'm trying, when I'm doing this, I get into this, I'm getting into this massive sort of push of trying to make sure that everybody understands how crazy this really is. And I know, Amy, you've been in Hawaii in the no snake, world of greatness. But for me, right, looking at the Texas floods, looking at the manipulation, the weather manipulation conspiracy theories coming from the EPA and from Congress, looking at the Epstein files and the Epstein list conspiracy theories, looking at the fact that they lied either before or after, and there's no way out of it, and that's happening right now, looking at the tariffs, right, especially stuff that they've dropped on like Korea, which is going crazy right now. I got a call from somebody who's trying to help out South Korea in the tariff issue, and they're like they've lost they have tiger teams trying to get around the tariff issues. You have all this. You have Ukraine, right? They had the biggest bombardment ever, and finally Trump changed his mind on weapons. We should be talking about that, Amy. That's what you love to talk about. That's what I love.
We
to talk
should be,
about.
but I don't know where to begin. I think well, first of all, regarding the Texas flood is total tragedy. What I'm thinking about is, I mean, an early warning siren for a county costs about $1 million. And we have all of the, I'm reading now that there are all these federal funds over the last decade that were allocated toward state and local governments becoming more resilient, getting more, of these sirens, of these early warning systems. And they couldn't get the grant money. And they can't get the grant money because of, red tape. And there's not a lot of people that understand how to get the grant money. And, it's just this, why is that not a bigger story? Like Texas apparently hasn't used something like, I don't know, 250 million. I'd have to look it up, but a lot of money that they were allowed to use over the last decade for this very thing. Some of it came from the American Rescue Plan. And Texas was like, no, we don't want that money. I mean, it's just ridiculous. That needs to be a story. You're talking about over 120 people dead in a flash flood in which there was no warning for. Why are we not focused on that? I mean, we'll do hearings in Congress over Benghazi, and where, what, 1 or 2 people died or 3, I don't even remember now. And we don't seem to get whatever, act of God. I don't know.
Well, it goes completely against the Republican playbook of having any type of accountability since Trump has been part of this. It's the downstream effects of Doge.
Public policy.
This This is public policy, but you know what? They did announce a hearing in September, Amy, on aliens. So, I mean, I'm not joking.
I know.
That's not a joke. And so now I have to tell the audience that wasn't a joke. There actually is a hearing. Anna Paulina Luna, right, is pushing for these hearings, which were supposed to happen in August. I think she forgot that's congressional recess, Amy, but we can go into that later. But so it got pushed into September. So I have people talking to me because how sort of strident I've been against alien abduction conspiracy theories and repressed memory stuff and all that, which is insane. But that's actually happening. So instead of talking about the floods, Amy, I guess I'm violently agreeing with you on a level that I am. You're right, as usual, right? That wise in public policy and caring about your constituents, number one, and not conspiracy theories about Epstein, weather manipulation, and alien abductions, which seems to be really the baseline of the GOP right now.
Why aren't we doing a hearing on why, I don't know, let me see, $225 million in federal grant money was turned down by Texas that was supposed to be used to protect residents from disasters? Why is Texas turning down money? Apparently, one report says that states and communities often lack the personnel and expertise to spend it, so they don't really know how to apply for the grants properly. Why are we not having a hearing on that? I mean, I know that sounds boring, but to me, that would be smart, serious legislative thinking. Hey, we clearly have a problem here. We had 120 people die that didn't need to die. Why is that happening? Can we prevent this going forward? But call me, I don't know, boring.
Call you serious?
Yeah.
Call you caring? Amy, that's okay to be serious and caring and want to help people. That's what you should be doing. Instead, we have cosplaying fantasists wearing pajamas on cross-country trips for votes, right? Like Nancy Mace. Or, we have Marjorie Taylor Greene and the craziness, or Boebert today, right? Lauren Boebert saying that Matt Gaetz should be the independent counsel that's actually investigating the Epstein files. The layers of that are so hilarious. Lauren Boebert, the public theater groper, saying that Matt Gaetz, the famous Venmo, right, payer of girls to have sex, should be the ones investigating Epstein, right, who is a child trafficker and rapist, right, about the Epstein files or list, which was lied about by the Trump administration.
Yeah.
The layers are crazy there. I don't know what to do. I know that we're getting into Cask Us Anything.
Let's get it going.
Let's get it going. Cask Us Anything. Is this the first question? Denver. What do we got? So I think we got Tim Price. It's the corruption. It's obvious. It's in plain sight, but it has some bipartisan dimensions. I agree. Do you see some kind of constitutional convention or truth and reconciliation needing to happen? First of all, great question. Second, the issue that I think we have, Tim, if I may, and Tim has asked some questions of me before, and you, Amy, here's the issue. What is truth? What is it right now? Is truth what you believe, or is it truth what you can prove? Is truth what's under a congressional hearing, or is truth what's happening in front of your face, right? And right now, I think if we had truth and reconciliation, we're still going to have a 50-50 split of the country. Maybe it's not 50-50 exactly, Amy, but you're going to have a split in the country. Exactly what is the definition of truth? Is it your truth? Is it an emotional truth? Is it a facts-based truth, right? Yeah. Is God actually dictating policy, or is data dictating policy? And I think those are the things that are going to be very difficult. Yes, I think we need to have something where there's a baseline of truth. Does the Constitutional Convention do it? I don't think so. I think we're at this. I think
it's hard. Well, I want to ask you though, Denver, but before I do, I want to talk about truth for a little bit. The Constitutional Convention piece I want to get back to, because what I want to ask you is if there's one thing that you can change about our Constitution, what would it be? So think about that. But I also want to just mention this, and maybe I need to do a little bit more research before I talk about it extensively a little bit more. But I was on vacation to Hawaii. We did the last few nights at a military base there on the water, because they have some cabins there that are really cool. And we noticed that when we were on the base in the cabins, they have TVs. We turn on TVs. You know, you've been in the military. So what does military bases have? Sort of their own cable network, right?
Well, you have,
So
you know,
what-
you got military
So
network.
did you know
news, but-
that like they only play for cable news networks on that base? There was no CNN. There was no MSNBC. Guess what they did have?
Fox.
Yeah, all the Fox channels. And so I thought, wow, this is interesting. I need to do a little bit more research before we talk about this a little more, because I didn't know if that was just a one-off or maybe it was just like the day I was
not.
there or something. But like that's
Mm-mm.
really scary. And when you talk about truth, it's like where are you getting your information from? You know, it's I don't,
So
I
in
don't
the-
know what to tell you.
In the montage, you know, they showed all the Fox News people talking about the Epstein list and Epstein files, which what a brilliant montage, because it's really just the tip of the iceberg on the years of Epstein conspiracy theories, you know, pumped out by Fox, Newsmax, Tucker Carlson, right? Let's look at the right-wing influencers like Benny Johnson, right? You know, it just goes on and on and on, right? Glenn Beck, right? All these nutbags, Matt Walsh now, and you know, even the Tates, Andrew Tates of the world, right? All these really awful human beings. I don't know how we change this unless when the next administration comes in, Amy, they say, listen, there has to be equal time on all networks played, and here's what's going to happen. It almost needs to be a top-down directive, because in the military, obviously, we're not in a democracy. They can dictate whatever they want on base.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, no cable news should be shown on base. If I'm the commander, it's ABC, CBS, and NBC. That's all it's allowed to be shown. Fox News is a virulent, in some ways, a virulent propaganda machine. Now, are there certain shows on MSNBC you sort of roll your eyes? Of course. CNN all the time. Just watch Jake Tapper. But I mean, I think when you're going through all this stuff, I think you have to have a very specific way of making sure you don't have radicalization going on military bases. And I just think you take away all cable news. That's, you know, people are like, oh my God, Den, you know, they should be able to, you know.
I'm not for treating people in the military as children and restricting, you know, and saying you can't. I mean, I'm all for like freedom of speech. It's just it's frustrating to me to not see the other news channels and just see Fox News. I mean, that to me, they were the ones sued for, you know, lying. It wasn't MSNBC, it was Fox News.
Fox, $787 million, right? For Dominion voting systems. The other thing too, I'm talking about specifically in squadron buildings or flight buildings and things like that. I'm not talking about in homes, and you can watch whatever the hell you want. I'm talking about in specific public spaces in military areas. I'm not talking about homes. I mean, it's a free country. You can do what the hell you want. So, you know, that's where I'm at. Of course, if somebody's going to run against me, they're going to play that one clip. And I'm like, yeah, it's out of context. Right. So, but yeah, so that's what I want, you know, people to know. So I don't know if we have another question. Here we go.
All right, here we go.
You.
Okay. This is from a YouTube user. I saw a news feed that said that half the National Guard is being pulled out of LA. Are they going to be sent to Texas to help in the recovery efforts? That's a good question. I did see in the news that just today they're withdrawing 2,000 National Guardsmen from protecting buildings, Denver and LA. And so the one question I had, this has been going on for over a month now, right? I mean, my sense of time is a little off because of vacation, but I think they've been there for over a month.
Yes.
And my question is like, what is the cost of this? I mean, they were protecting these federal buildings. Really?
What happened? Nothing.
Really?
Nothing.
And what was the cost of this deployment?
It's you know, it's unbelievable. And what really happened in LA, I think it was just nuts, right? And you know, I think that's part of it too, right? If you're looking at what happened in LA, it was an overreaction based on a political message rather than what the National Guard really needed there. And how dare us? Oh, Seneca Project's on. Holy crap, man, we're getting this is crazy. Got some cool people on here now. I think what really bothers me about this, when you're talking about actually deploying the National Guard, is that we're having common sense questions that are so incredible from our audience. It says, why did they just move into Texas for help? And there's not even a thought of that, as far as I can see, downstream on policy. When you're talking about what happened in LA, nothing happened. They didn't need them. California had it under control. So that's, again, what scares me, is the propaganda that we're pushing forward here. And when I see a question like this, Amy, and we have the facts at our fingertips like you do, it really bothers me that that's actually not being said more often by politicians, rather than the very smart people on this show who are bringing it up.
Well,
And
I also think that, like, I know the Texas National Guard has already been on scene and done a lot of work. The Coast Guard has done a lot of work, a lot of saving lives and stuff like that. So I think that the effort after the floods has been tremendous, from what I can see and read. It's really, from my perspective, it's, how did we get here? Like, why did we not know? And why are we still talking about cutting FEMA and NOAA, the National Oceanography organization that does all of these predictions? How come we can't get money to these counties to get these relatively cheap systems that would warn people if you're in a camp in which you can't have a cell phone? Seriously? I mean, I was at a swim meet today. My kids were swimming today. And I think during the swim meet, like 3 or 4 of these Amber Alerts went off. And it was like a missing child or something, which they found. Another Amber Alert comes on and tells us they found him. Okay, that's great. But like like the whole place during the swim meet, the alarm system, it was almost like we all had this siren going off. But if you don't have these cell phones now, you need a community alarm system to kind of tell people what's going on.
You and your common sense. Come on, Amy. I mean, this is just crazy, and
look, Denver, Bangladesh, okay, that has a lot of flooding, third world country, has invested in these sirens. They work. And now Texas can do the same, just saying.
Well, I mean, I think, oh goodness, more questions coming out. Here we go. Here we go. So it feels like these conspiracy theories are becoming more mainstream. How do we counter the appeal of QAnon without pushing followers further into their beliefs? Is de-radicalization even possible? Wow. Okay. I've had this question, so this one's going to be nuts. Are we ready for this, Amy?
I mean, let me just say one, two
ready.
thing, and then because I know you have a long answer, and yours is going to be better because this is your thing. My only
It'll be short.
is that the best thing to do is to kind of continue to throw out the simple stuff, like, hey, where are the Epstein files? Where if this was such an important thing, I mean, it's just kind of retort by saying, maybe not the truth, but just like asking them basic questions that make them think. I don't know. What's your thought?
Yeah, I mean, I think the part of the question, when we talk about pre-bunking instead of debunking, and you're talking about de-radicalization or deprogramming, I've had this, Mary Idris Miller from American University. We've been on stage. I was in that, remember the movie Against All Enemies about the radicalization of veterans during January 6th. And she was the light, I was the dark. And she thought that pre-bunking, before they knew about conspiracy theories, there was a 20% switch on certain people with certain belief systems. And I'm like, okay. And is this a controlled environment? And I love what she does. I mean, she's one of the best people on the planet, doing this work. When you're in the field though, and I say this sort of, I'm not trying to be glib, but when you're at a West Virginia family reunion, like I've been at many times, pre-bunking doesn't work. There's no de-radicalization strategy for these individuals. You can ask them questions though to try to lead them to get there eventually. But you also have this issue where you're going against a very set belief system that's usually based on fantasy anyway. So so for instance, when you're talking about de-radicalization for specifically on the Epstein files, and you're talking about, in my family, there's my family members that believe that God ordained Trump to be president. He's here to deliver us from the evil, of the Democrats. I mean, that's specific. It's just that specific. So when I go and say, well, what do you think about the Epstein files or Epstein list? when I've talked about the lies that he's done before? How about the fact that he's a sexual abuser adjudicated? What about what he said on the bus with Billy Bush? How about the fact that he's a felon, or the fact that Trump University was fraudulent? I go into a lot of this. They're like, well, the thing is, it's the deep state that went after him, right? Evil is always there going after Trump. It's made up. And my question to them is like, well, how about it? What is the other stuff made up too that Trump talks about others? Well, no, because he's ordained by God, or he's here to save us from the Democrats or the globalists, right? There's no way to try to flip them, right? If you have a large group, there's no way to flip them and de-radicalize them in any way. It just doesn't work. You can hit them one-on-one though. And when I've told people, this is a house-to-house battle. You have to confront stupidity, or confront ignorance, or confront credulity, or confront the fact that they're lying, or confront that they are just wrong, right? Somebody's lied to them, right? And that happens a lot. People get lied to and they believe it. You have to confront it immediately, even if it's uncomfortable. So if you're in a house and people talk about Thanksgiving and all that, but it could be any day, right? You're at a summer picnic and somebody comes up to you and says Biden is obviously on the Epstein list, right? That's when you attack. You attack with everything you got, and you can do it with a smile. You can do it compassionate. I call it compassionate confrontation. But what you have to do is you got to say, listen, well, why won't Trump release the Epstein list if Biden's not on it? That would be your first question.
Yeah.
Well, Trump's hiding it. That's how you start. You have to unwrap their spiritual belief system and pull it apart. But really the most effective way is one-on-one.
Okay.
That's my answer.
That's a good one.
That's my answer. So,
all right. So Denver, so here's a question from Nina.
Holy
where does Denver
Nina.
think the data went from the January 6th committee?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it is gone. That's the thing that I think the independents and the left are afraid to say. And how would I know that? Right, Amy? It was like, God, how would Denver know that? Because I was a senior technical advisor on the January 6th committee, number one. Number two, nobody knows where our phone records are. 5 million hard pages are gone. The monster graph that we built that showed how the white nationalist groups were connected, how the rally planners were connected, the phone calls that happened with White House staff, right, which was barely reported.
Are they gone now, or did they get lost during the Biden administration?
Well, we don't know. So it was a few months ago. So when we had gotten into this, right at the end of the Biden administration, when the Trump administration was coming in, I made a call to an attorney to call the National Archives because I wanted to make sure that all of our records were there. What's odd about this, there were only 2 hard drives they asked us to send, one to the House Rules Committee, right, which should have it somewhere, whether it's Democrat or Republican, and to one of the investigative offices, probably the FBI. So I'm like, well, it's got to be one place or the other. Well, the fact is, I know it's never even been opened because it's encoded, right? It's actually encrypted, right? And we have the other encryption key, or my guys had the other encryption key. I didn't. The actual technical individuals did. So we were like, this is really odd, right? We have more data than the FBI has ever had to analyze. And we had the best team, people who used to work for intelligence agencies and phone companies that went through this and did all this work. Well, anyhow, they called the National Archives. They said, we cannot locate the hard drives. Now, that is still, as I know, a fact today. The issue that you have when you have a committee that dissembles that quickly, it's not conspiracy theories. It's nothing like that. What happens is that people leave, you have different passwords with different systems.
Yeah.
But when you lose hard drives, something's up, or they're just dumb and incompetent, and they just threw them in a pile somewhere. So when you see these conspiracy theories, like people are destroying the January 6th, either Republicans who did destroy some and Democrats who couldn't find it, it is mostly incompetence. The thing is, with something this important, there shouldn't be incompetence, and we should be angry. But, I thought about getting an attorney to actually see if I can't actually find out where those are, because I think the American public should know exactly who was calling who in the 187 minutes that Trump was quiet.
I know you probably couldn't do this because it's probably illegal, but I wish you would have kept something to the side. But you're right.
Could you imagine
my
if
experience
I would
in
ever do
government,
that?
25 years, is that there's not a whole lot of conspiracies going on. I'm not to say that there isn't ever, but it's mostly incompetence. It's mostly just people moving in and out, especially in the military. I mean, in the military, you're moving every 3 years. You got new people coming in all the time. I mean, it's just shit happens a lot.
Well, what scares me though, Amy, is incompetence and stupidity can be terminal. And if we don't have a government that can even have the competence to sequester and store terabytes of actual investigative data for one of the most dire times in our history, it allows conspiracy theories to run through the woods with their hair on fire, screaming and covered in their own filth. And I think that's the issue that we have, right? Is that the conspiracy theorists can scream and they can always flip between something like the Epstein files to January 6th. And it's very difficult, right, to defend everything when all the data that you know is out there, right, can't be immediately pulled for an attack vector, as you know, right? You want to have all your data before you actually pickle. And I think that's the issue that I have right now is I know it. I wrote the book on it. It's, not to say that I would ever nakedly put my book out there and advertise for it. It's not over my shoulder or anything, sitting on the Truth in the Barrel.
There you
I mean, or the Bigfoot It's Complicated book, which is about how beliefs crush people like The Breach. I would never just come and advertise my books that are right over my shoulder.
No.
But I guess, what I'm saying though, is that, I don't know. I just think we're in a really bad time when we can't actually track our own investigative data.
Yeah. All right. We have time for one more question.
And this is from the Seneca Project too, Amy. You get to read this.
Send it.
Okay, yeah, I know.
All right. Here's what it says. What do you think is the breaking point when the cognitive dissonance finally cracks and mega voters realize they've been sold a lie? Is there a breaking point? God help us.
You want to try it first? Because I have a 2-word answer.
My feeling is I've become jaded in my days of being in politics. I sort of went into politics thinking the best of people, and now it's different. And I don't know if these mega folks are ever going to change. I mean, I don't think even if presented, and I hear what you're saying, Denver, about presenting facts and the truth to them and asking tough questions. I feel like there's just like the brain cells are not going to connect. In other words, they're not going to no matter what you say, even if you say at nighttime, it's nighttime, it's dark outside. They're going to say, no, there's a sun right there. I mean, I feel like we're at this point.
I think the politically correct way is to say synaptically challenged, Amy. And I think, but I don't know if we can put that question up again by the Seneca Project. I think I remember all of it, but I think it was the last part of it when you're talking about cognitive dissonance. Yeah. Here, what's the breaking point? 2 words.
Yeah.
Epstein list.
Okay.
So again, cognitive dissonance, we did a whole show on this, by the way. I had an old show years ago. And by the way, Matt Anderson turned me on to where cognitive dissonance came from, which was a study back in the 50s. And we can go into all that another time, that was actually a word that came up about a group of people who thought a UFO was going to come and take them away. When it didn't, and they kept praying and it never came back, they said it was their prayers that actually stopped the UFO from going to take them away. So this researcher, and I think I'm right about the story, came up with the term cognitive dissonance. The issue that you have right now is that you finally have a chance to break through on a spiritual level. When you have people that are engaged in spiritual warfare and the people that they thought was on their side are hiding evil in their eyes, and they're not releasing the New World Order pedophile list into the world so that they can identify their enemies, there are issues. And you can have the influencers who are getting their talking points directly from the RNC and everybody else, because you see the same thing over and over again. The new thing is, why didn't Biden release the list? Right? So what? It's such cognitive dissonance. Well, guess what? Biden didn't. So Trump should, right? Boom. All of a sudden their eyes cross, their hair stands up on end, right? And they run around in a circle, they fall down, and they hope that lightning hits them, right? I mean, that's really what happens, because there's no way to get out of this question. So when Tara and Michelle from Seneca Project, they ask a question like that, and me and you were talking about it, and I'm sorry, I love these topics. As you know, Amy, you're probably, good Lord, Deborah loves this shit.
I mean, you're the conspiracy theory guy.
You know, I think that is the issue we have, right? Is now we can hit them in the spiritual junk. And I think that's what we can do. That's what we could do. We need to go to war and tell people that they're being lied to, which they've been lied to over and over again. And I think, I hope that quote never gets out if I'm running for office, what I just said, but it's the truth. It's time to go to war and tell them truthfully, with compassion, compassionate confrontation, you've been lied to. You were lied to then, or you're lied to now. When else have they lied to you? Bam, and bam, and bam, and bam, and bam. And we're only going to get 1 to 3% of them to turn. Amy, you're exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a 1 to 3% turn rate, but 1 to 3%, when you're looking at gross voting, is a lot.
Yeah,
that could
it
actually
is.
turn an
And
election.
some have already turned. I mean, some have already. We read stories all the time about people who have sort of seen the light. So it's there.
Yep, here we go. It's there. And I tell you, Amy, this was a great show. I know that you just came back from Hawaii and had to jump right into the Epstein list, the Texas floods, QAnon, and then the awfulness of what has, since you've been in Hawaii and the no snake paradise. I'm just so glad you're back.
Well, I am back, and I'm looking forward to getting back into this. We've got Unfiltered later on this week. There's still a lot to talk about. I mean, I want to know where we're at the 90-day point, right? For Trump, he had 200 deals that he was going to make. I don't know where we stand on that. I was in Hawaii. But there's a lot of waste and incompetence. Elon Musk said that he would, in his Doge, would cut trillions of dollars. Where are we on that? Ukraine. Didn't Donald Trump say that he would end that war? Where are we on that? Then I mean, we got a lot to talk about in the next.
I can't wait. I can't wait. You know what? If people want to hear about this and everything Amy just said, you got to subscribe. You got to go to your favorite podcast. You got to download us. You got to click these little buttons that say subscribe, right? You got to follow us on social media. You can even see us on Truth Social. Amy's like, let's go right at them. So we're on Truth Social if they're brave enough to watch the truth. So Amy, so good. You're so glad you're back. I love this show. And thank you everybody for watching tonight.
All right. Good to be with you, and cheers.
See you Thursday.
All right.